Hi folks, so in this video I'm going to give a debt payoff update. I think in December I was able to put a sizable chunk on my personal loan to the point where I only had about $571.99 to pay off on that. So I was able to pay that off almost immediately in January, which was awesome. Like, hallelujah, one less payment. And that was actually the highest amount of money I was sending anywhere. But I'm doing the debt snowball. And if you don't know what the debt snowball is, that's where you take all your debts, you list them smallest to largest, and you start by tackling the smallest payment first, or the smallest amount first, not like monthly payment. And it just so happened that mine was the biggest monthly payment, which was kind of fortunate. And from my debt confession, debt payoff video from December, I think I did it in December. I think at that point, there was maybe like 2,300 and some left. It actually was a loan of $5,000. And I initially took that loan out along with another credit card to do that 0% financing thing, mostly because I knew that I needed to stockpile some money for some things. So I wasn't going to be able to get to paying off the interest or paying off right away and throwing lots of money at it. So I wanted to save myself the interest, basically. Um, and with that comes with, everything going on with COVID and stuff like that. Like, I wasn't really sure what was going to be happening income wise. I am actually still a little concerned. Um, I might go back into pile up cash mode because it looks like we're going to be going back full time without being vaccinated. And there is a much higher risk at that point of exposure, of getting sick, or even just having to quarantine from exposure. Um, and I am a little concerned what happens, if I end up getting sick or even just have to quarantine. I may have to quarantine several times. And without the what was it called? The Families First Coronavirus Act. That act provided for businesses to pay sick leave or to pay for days where people have had to quarantine or if they were out sick. That's gone. So, and it hasn't been renewed by the government. And that means that if I get sick or I have to quarantine or whatever, I have to use my days for that. I have to use, my personal days. When I don't have many, I mean, we get 3 a year in a contract, but then once they're done, like, we can only take 5. Like, we can hold some, but we can only take 5. Um, and at this point, like, I have, I think, 4. Um, so that gets me 4, but I have to quarantine for 10 days. So that doesn't help me. Like, I mean, it helps me a little bit, but not a ton. And if I end up having to quarantine more than once because of exposure, then, I'm going to have to eat sick days, which means there might be a time in the future when I need sick days and I don't have them and I have to take the day unpaid. So all of that kind of stuff, being that that's up in the air and unknown, like, I really want to have a pile of cash sort of standing by. But I wanted really crank down on my budget over the last few months to get at least my personal loan paid off and to try to get most of my Citibank card paid off. So I was able to pay off the bank loan. Like I said, it started out as $5,000. I think by the time I did my debt payoff video, colored this baby in. By the time I did my debt confession video, I think it was down to like 2,300 or something along that. Like, a little over 2,000. So I just threw a bunch of money at it in December that I had left over from my budget and finished it off early January. So that's really exciting. These are debt payoff charts. It's a great way to sort of visually see. Where'd they come from? Oh, debt-free charts. I just kind of blank there, sorry. says it on the bottom, but I will put a link in the description. You can get your own. These are free. They have some that are not free, and they're really neat. And it kind of gamifies it for you a little bit. Sorry, I'm cold, so I'm like wrapping myself in a blanket. Um, but they've actually been really helpful because I've stuck this on my refrigerator, and it's been kind of a reminder for me. And I think they're great, especially if you need that reminder of the goal that you have. And they have different kinds, like for emergency fund or for house fund or for this or for that. So it's not necessarily just debt payoff. It can also be like savings goals. So that was pretty cool. And like how it works is you put the total amount that you're either like trying to save or the total amount you borrowed in this particular thing. And there are 25 lines. So you put the total amount at the top, you divide that by 25, and that gives you like the amount that goes on each of these individual lines. And then as you pay off that amount, you color it in. So you know, this is totally, I don't even know what I want to do with this. Like I kind of want to frame it and be like, last debt ever with these pieces, but like, I don't know. Is that really something somebody needs to keep? I don't know. Anyway, for now, just gonna flick it off into the air. And if you look at this particular chart, so I just kind of did a brief prediction of how I could do with my debt snowball, like what the monthly amount that I have to pay on there, how much was actually on the balance coming into the month. And then, you know, how quickly I thought I could pay that off, what my snowball amount would be. And the idea, I think I actually cut off this description. So the idea of the debt snowball, there's a couple different ways to pay off debt. The debt snowball is really helpful if you need like a couple of quick wins. And it's really helpful if you are concerned about changing your behavior. It's way more behavior based than it is mathematical. And depending on what your debts are, I mean, most of the time using this method, it's not really going to cost you that much more money. It will, and if you're like the math almost evens out. If you are more concerned about being able to sustain and keep going, then the debt snowball is the best approach, I think, because, you know, when you have like a huge debt and you feel like, oh, if I just tackle that massive one first, these others won't feel that terrible. That's true. But if that massive debt takes you 2 years to pay off, like, you know, some folks have like, well, my student loan, when I started paying off my student loans, I had $35,000 in student loan debt, which is a lot to me, but my God, it's nothing to what folks have these days. I really, really feel for y'all. I had like a fancy souped up Honda Accord's worth of a loan. Y'all have like a mortgage, and that's all kinds of not okay. But anyway, that $35,000 that I'm paying on, if I wait to pay that off, you know, and then worry about other things later, it's going to take me a long time to pay $35,000 off. And I'm going to get discouraged, and I'm going to feel like, oh my God, I keep sacrificing, and I make no progress because, dear God, $35,000 is a lot. And those of you with like 50 or 75 or $100,000, like that's exactly, it's demoralizing and it feels awful. Whereas the snowball method like helps you with like feeling little victories, right? So by like the 5th of January, I'd have to look up when I actually sent the payment, but very early in the month, like boom, personal loan paid off, no problem whatsoever. And then I took a huge chunk out of my Visa card. If I had other little ones, like that would be great too. And be like, man, I just had 7 debts. Now I have 5. And then, you know, 3 months later, be like, I've had 5 debts. Now I have 4. And, you know, you keep building momentum. And the idea being you take the payment that you were paying in that loan or for that loan every month, and you roll it into the amount. So you come up with your budget, you see what's left over out of your budget, you figure out what you can squeeze out of your budget in order to have an extra amount of money to throw on a piece of debt, your lowest debt. or your smallest debt, I guess is the better way to say it. So you put all that money on your smallest debt. When that smallest debt is paid off, you take that amount of money and the amount that you were using as a minimum payment, right? That adds to, and like a snowball, as it rolls, it gathers more and more and more snow. So your payments, as you start paying things off, they gather more and more momentum because they're getting more and more money. And so that by the time you get to your last couple of things to pay, you're throwing a lot of money at once on it. And it makes it a little bit easier too, because you've kind of been living without that money for a while. And now you just have, like, you can knock out that stuff even faster, right? So for me, it worked out that my highest payment was also the thing I was paying off first, because it was my lowest total debt. And I kind of estimated what my average snowball amount was going to be and what the combination of that would be. But I can actually do a video breaking down the different debt payoff methods and stuff like that. But for right now, I'm just kind of focusing on what I'm doing. So this baby is highlighted or bolded because I paid it off. Okay. This is really just me tracking sort of, okay, if I can put this much on it, then, and then when I can start paying off, I actually was anticipating taking 3 months to pay off that personal loan when I first kind of worked this out. And I want to say I was maybe doing this in November, maybe December. But what really helped me was January was a 3-pay month. So I was able to take the extra pay from my full-time job, the extra pay from my part-time job, and that was about $2,100. Let me look right quick here. So yeah, 1,548 and 614, so $2,100. I took some refund money from some tickets that I got refunded, and my wellness check and my stimulus. So there was a lot of money to be had, and I actually would have done even better had I not spent $900 getting some work done on my house. So at any rate, able to pay off that personal loan, able to take that last pay, the income from that last pay, and throw it at my next highest debt, or my next largest, which was my Visa card. Now, this Visa, again, I did the Visa and the student loan because I had one Discover card with a massive amount on it. And I mean, at least $11,300, because this was the $6,300 I got from them, and that was $5,000 on my bank loan. So, and that had an astronomical rate on it, which if you watch my debt confessions video, I talk a little bit about that. That's a big reason why, like, I wasn't really paying attention. And I kind of remember thinking, this should be paid off more. I feel like I've paid so much on this. Because it was just kind of on auto pay. And I knew I hadn't been using it, but I wasn't really making any traction. And I found out when I actually, like, opened up a statement and looked at it, like, I'm sending them $500 a month, and they're charging me $330 in interest. And I'm like, sorry, what? This is not okay. So that's kind of what prompted me to, like, pay everything off. And I immediately wanted to, like, I called Discover, I asked for a better rate. They were like, sorry, we don't do that. And so I said, oh, sorry, then I'm not going to keep my business here. And, went through the process of transferring, like doing a balance transfer, basically. I could not get enough straight to another credit card, which was why I needed the personal loan. But, huzzah, that's part of that Discover card. And here's the other part. So with the rest of my pay in January and the stimulus money and all of that good stuff, I was able to put a massive chunk in January on this. $3,800 extra dollars. So the $100 I put on as a monthly payment, and the $3,800 for a total of $3,900, which leaves me with a balance of $700. That is going to get paid off this month, barring some weird, freaky thing. And I'm so excited for that because that means it's going to leave just my student loans and my possibly my retirement thing, which I'm doing a little bit more research. And I think I've said this in the past, but this basically would go into my pension fund. So I'm thinking it's maybe better to not include that as a debt. Pile up that money in like an IRA or a mutual fund and just keep that separate to kind of make up for the difference there. But I can definitely explain that at a later date because the point of this video is the pay off some stuff. So I'm going to color in some of these. And I think I'm going to pause the video for that so it's not like running constantly in the background while I'm just scribbling in, because I'm going to do multi-layers rather than like one giant chunk. Or maybe I'll do one giant chunk. We'll see. Down to $700, and that's so unbelievably exciting right now. So I'm just going to get to color in. Yeah, I know that looks like just a weird edit, but that's because I'm screencasting and not editing. But huzzah! That is done. I made it rainbowy because I didn't want to have just one big block, and also I did not want to burn like all of my highlighters here. Huzzah! So all I have left to fill in is that little bit that gives you a nice visual cue and a nice reminder. This is going to go back on my fridge, and hopefully at the end of the month, there's actually $600 left to go because I just made the payment on that. So that is all I really have to come up with out of my budget, which is great because I'm fairly certain with my extra job, I should be able to do that pretty easily. And then we figure out how to tackle student loans because I will be down to probably the last one. Like I said, I am probably going to invest this instead of paying it back as a debt, but we will have to see. That'd be very nice to take $17,000 off of this like that, as far as the debt payoff goes, but it's going to be, I'm not sure where to put it. I guess a secondary savings goal. I don't know. Who knows? But at any rate, that is the debt payoff right now, or as of right now. There is $32,370.31 left because I have paid off $4,145.83 as of the end of January 2021. And so we'll see what the end of February will bring in terms of payoff. See you in the next one. Bye.